Hey everyone, so it's been a while since I last updated everyone on where I'm at with this crocodile. So I've been a little bit busy with work recently, but only now have I had a chance to pick it up and get my teeth really stuck into finishing it. What we have going on here is sort of like the base skin, and then we have a different shader for wet dirt. We've got another one for dried dirt, caked dirt, another one for high frequency dust. We're using different maps for driving different surface qualities in between the scales, fleshier and wetter kind of eyes, the same with the mouth. And we also have a different shader going on for the blood. So yeah, this is kind of where I'm at so far. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. There are a few things that I'd like to balance out and adjust, but really happy with this first turntable. And once I'm fully happy with it, that's where I'll do some nice renders and then record the process. I did have a question about what kind of maps I like to use to build up the surface. Well, first of all, I like to use a constant color to define the actual color itself. And then I'm using cavity map, displacement maps, and different auxiliary maps that I'm baking out to drive the overall surface and the different qualities of sort of like the edges and the inner parts of the actual where the scales are, but to actually generate sort of surface qualities, I'm using a marble map, but a lot of the heavy lifting of the actual most of the variation in the masks that I'm actually building and some of the high frequency details that I'm overlaying are coming from grunge maps that I actually scan myself. You'd normally expect these kind of maps to be used on hard surface to break up the specular roughness, but with things like this, especially hard creatures with hard skin, I'm overlaying this grunge map here. It's got some really, really nice details. It's super crisp and it's got some really, really nice natural variation. And yeah, I'm using that to screen over just to add some high frequency detail. And then another scratch map to sort of give it a little bit of a history. You know, maybe it's sort of scratched up against rocks or it's got in a fight and that kind of thing. So yeah, those are the kind of textures that I'm using. I'm using pretty much the same kind of textures, same kind of grunges. These are sort of like my go-to grunges now. You can mix them with different contrast levels for a more crunchier kind of look or more subtle. But again, I'm using these maps to build up the dirt maps as well. And something that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but for example, a lot of people use smudge maps to if you wanted to have a coffee table and you wanted to simulate on the computer where you've polished it and where you've rubbed it with a cloth. In this case, I'm using it for blood. And so there's this map that I've scanned in myself, smudges, and I'm using it to add smudges of where there's been blood. And also I'm using this map here, sort of like as a splatter map to drive most of the surface qualities or the actual most of the mask of this blood here. And I just rotate it and tile it a different amount of times to sort of get something really random. And in this case, it works really well. And I can paint on top of it and I can mix different things in to sort of customize this mask exactly how I want it to look. But yeah, that's kind of most of the masks most of the textures that I use. A lot of the variation itself doesn't necessarily come with projecting textures down. It's more mixing different grunges and things like that, along with the cavity map and displacement map, and adding different masks on top. So for example, this yellow skin, this green algae, this wet dirt, the high frequency dust and things like that. Adding those layers really helps break up the surface. Yeah, I will be going through all of this in a tutorial once I actually finish it. But yeah, the next update I hopefully will have for you guys is the finished tutorial. So yeah, any other questions, write them down below and I'll get back to you. Cheers.